The date is October 28th, 312 AD. We are standing on the banks of the Tiber River, just outside the gates of Rome. The water is about to run red. On one side stands the Emperor Maxentius, defending the ancient capital with the elite Praetorian Guard. On the other stands a usurper from the north, a man whose ambition burns hotter than the sun. But something is different about this northern army. They aren't just fighting for territory, they aren't just fighting for gold. According to legend, they are marching behind a symbol that came from a vision in the sky, a command from a god that Rome had spent centuries trying to destroy. In the next few hours, the world will change forever. The classical age will begin its slow death, and the Middle Ages will begin to breathe. This is the story of the man who bridged two worlds, the man who murdered his own son, reorganized an empire, and bowed his knee to the cross. This is the story of Constantine the Great. To understand the man, we must first understand the mess he inherited. By the late 3rd century, the Roman Empire was a corpse that refused to die. It had survived the crisis of the 3rd century, a 50-year nightmare of plague, economic collapse, and a revolving door of emperors who were usually assassinated before their first payday. To fix this, the Emperor Diocletian created the Tetrarchy, the rule of 4. The idea was simple. The empire was too big for one man, so they split it. 2 senior emperors, called Augusti, and 2 junior emperors, called Caesars. It was a system built on balance, order, and succession. It was brilliant on paper, but it ignored one fundamental truth about human nature: greed. Into this fragile system, Flavius Valerius Constantinus was born around 272 AD in the gritty military city of Naissus. He wasn't born in a marble palace in Rome. He was a child of the military camps. His father, Constantius Chlorus, was a rough, formidable general. His mother, Helena, was a woman of humble origins. Some sources suggest she was a barmaid, but she would become perhaps the most influential woman in the history of Christianity. Constantine's childhood was not one of luxury, but of leverage. When his father was promoted to the rank of Caesar of the West, Constantine did not go with him. Instead, he was sent east to the court of the senior emperor Diocletian in Nicomedia. He was ostensibly there for education, to learn the art of war and politics. But everyone knew the truth. He was a hostage. He was the guarantee that his father would remain loyal. For over a decade, Constantine walked the razor's edge. He lived in the lion's den, watching, learning, and surviving. He saw Diocletian launch the great persecution against the Christians, burning churches, seizing scriptures, and feeding believers to beasts. Constantine watched the smoke rise. He saw the futility of trying to kill an idea with a sword. He stayed silent, but he was taking notes. In 305 AD, Diocletian did the unthinkable. He retired. The system was supposed to transition smoothly. Constantine expected to be named a Caesar, joining his father in power. Instead, he was passed over. He was isolated, surrounded by rivals who viewed him as a threat. The new Eastern Emperor, Galerius, began assigning Constantine to suicidal military missions, hoping he would die in battle. Constantine realized he was a dead man walking. One night, after getting Galerius drunk and securing a travel pass, Constantine fled. Legend tells us he didn't just ride fast, he hamstrung the horses at every post house behind him so no one could pursue. He rode across the breadth of Europe with the devil at his heels, finally reuniting with his father in Boulogne just before they crossed into Britannia. They campaigned together against the Picts, north of Hadrian's Wall. It was here, at the edge of the known world, that Constantine proved his worth to the legions. He was charismatic, tall, and fearless. Soldiers loved a warrior, and Constantine was a warrior born. But in July of 306 AD, in the city of Eboracum, modern-day York, his father Constantius died. According to Diocletian's system, a new Caesar should have been appointed by the senior emperors. The troops didn't care about the system. In a moment of treason that would shatter the Tetrarchy, the legions in York raised their shields and proclaimed Constantine Augustus emperor. The dominoes fell. Over the next 6 years, the Roman world descended into a brutal game of elimination. 6 men claimed the title of emperor. Alliances were made and broken. Constantine, operating from his base in Gaul, was patient. He fought wars on the Rhine, built up his economy, and presented himself as the sane choice in a world gone mad. He married Fausta, the daughter of the old Emperor Maximian, to secure his legitimacy, and then, in a display of cold ruthlessness, forced Maximian to commit suicide when the old man tried to betray him. Constantine was done playing defense. He turned his eyes toward Italy. He turned his eyes toward Rome. Rome was held by Maxentius, a man who had declared himself emperor and held the city in a grip of fear. He had severed the grain supply. The people were starving. He had the Praetorian Guard, the most elite killers in the empire, and massive walls. Constantine had a smaller army, seasoned by years of fighting barbarians, but he was invading the heartland. It was a suicide mission, but Constantine marched anyway. This brings us to the most debated moment in Christian history. As Constantine marched toward the Milvian Bridge, something happened. The pagan historian Praxagoras says Constantine simply worshipped Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. But the Christian historian Eusebius claims that at noon, Constantine looked up and saw a cross of light superimposed over the sun, bearing the Greek inscription En Teutonica, in this sign conquer. That night, Christ appeared to him in a dream, telling him to use the chi rho, the first 2 letters of Christ's name in Greek, as his standard. Whether this was a divine miracle, a solar phenomenon known as a sundog, or a brilliant piece of political propaganda to motivate his troops, the result was the same. Constantine ordered the symbol painted on the shields. October 28, 312. Maxentius made a fatal tactical error. Instead of staying behind the Aurelian walls, he marched out to meet Constantine with the Tiber River at his back. He had built a pontoon bridge to retreat if necessary. Constantine's cavalry charge was devastating. His infantry, energized by their new divine patron, smashed into the Maxentian lines. The enemy broke. In the panic, the pontoon bridge collapsed. Hundreds of soldiers, clad in heavy armor, plunged into the river and drowned in the mud. Among them was Maxentius. Constantine entered Rome not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. The body of Maxentius was fished out of the river, decapitated, and his head was paraded through the streets, so the people knew the tyrant was dead. But more importantly, Constantine did not ascend the Capitoline Hill to offer sacrifice to Jupiter, as was tradition. He refused. The pagan gods were being ghosted by the Emperor of Rome. Constantine was now the master of the West, but the East was held by Licinius. For a time, they shared an uneasy peace. In 313 AD, they met in Milan and issued a document that would become the cornerstone of Western religious history, the Edict of Milan. It didn't just make Christianity legal, it returned confiscated property to the church. It granted total freedom of worship to all. After centuries of being hunted in catacombs, Christians could now walk in the light. Constantine began pouring money into the church, exempting clergy from taxes and building massive basilicas. But was he a true believer? Historians still argue. He kept the pagan title Pontifex Maximus, High Priest. His coin still featured the sun god for years. He likely saw Jesus as a powerful war god, stronger than Jupiter, who had delivered victory. To Constantine, theology was secondary, victory was primary. 2 emperors is one too many. The peace with Licinius couldn't last. Licinius began purging Christians in the east, giving Constantine the perfect casus belli, a holy war. In 324 AD, the final showdown took place. At the Battle of Chrysopolis, Constantine finally defeated Licinius. For the first time in nearly 40 years, the Roman Empire was united under one man. No more Tetrarchy, no more sharing. Constantine was the sole Augustus. The world was his. But conquering the world is easier than ruling it. Constantine wanted a unified empire, which meant he needed a unified church. But the Christians were fighting amongst themselves. A priest named Arius was teaching that Jesus was created by God and therefore lesser than the Father. This sparked riots in Alexandria. Constantine was annoyed. He wrote a letter to the bishops basically saying, "Can't we all just get along?" When that didn't work, he summoned the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. It was an incredible scene. Over 300 bishops gathered. Many of them were missing eyes or hands, scars from the torture they endured under Diocletian just 20 years prior. Now, they sat in the emperor's palace, eating his food. Constantine presided over the council like a referee. He didn't care much about the theological nuances of homoousios, of the same substance. He just wanted a decision. The result was the Nicene Creed, the statement of faith still used by billions of Christians today. While unifying the software of the empire, he also upgraded the hardware. Rome was too pagan, too republican, and too far from the wealthy eastern provinces. He needed a fresh start. He chose the ancient Greek city of Byzantium, located on the strategic Bosphorus Strait. He renamed it Nova Roma, but history would know it as Constantinople, the city of Constantine. He stripped the empire of art and statues to decorate his new capital. He built the hippodrome for chariot racing, massive walls, and the Great Palace. In the center, he erected a massive column with a statue of himself at the top, depicted as the sun god, but holding relics of the true cross. It was the perfect metaphor for Constantine, a blend of vanity, pagan imagery, and Christian piety. However, the Golden Age had a dark underbelly. In 326 AD, just after his greatest triumphs, Constantine traveled to Rome for his Jubilee. While there, a family tragedy occurred that remains shrouded in mystery. Constantine ordered the execution of his eldest son, Crispus, a brilliant commander who had helped him win the civil wars. Crispus was tried, convicted, and poisoned. Shortly after, Constantine ordered the death of his wife, the Empress Fausta. She was suffocated in an overheated bath. Why? The ancient sources whisper of a scandal. Perhaps a stepmother making advances on a stepson, or a false accusation of rape. We will never know the truth. We only know that the first Christian emperor, the man who preached peace, wiped out his own family to protect his throne. It is a stark reminder that Constantine was, first and foremost, a Roman emperor, a job description that rarely allows for mercy. The years rolled on. Constantine planned a massive campaign against Persia, dreaming of Alexander the Great's glory. But his body finally failed him. In 337 AD, at the age of 65, he fell ill. He had delayed his baptism his entire life. This was common practice at the time. The idea was to wait until the very end to wash away all sins at once, ensuring a clean slate for heaven. On his deathbed, he finally allowed the bishops to baptize him. He died on May 22, 337, still wearing the white robes of a neophyte Christian, leaving behind an empire that was forever changed. Constantine the Great is a difficult man to judge. To the Orthodox Church, he is a saint, the equal to the apostles. To secular historians, he was a brilliant opportunist who used religion to glue a fracturing empire back together. He murdered his rivals and his family. He taxed the populace heavily. He established a precedent for emperors controlling the church that would cause problems for 1,000 years. But look at the map. Look at history. Without Constantine, Christianity might have remained a minority cult. Without his founding of Constantinople, the Roman Empire in the East might have fallen centuries earlier, leaving Europe open to invasion much sooner. He bought the Roman system another 1,000 years of life in the East. He found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble. He found an empire of many gods and left it focused on one. Whether driven by faith or politics, his choices created the bedrock of Western civilization. What do you think? Was Constantine's conversion genuine, or was it the greatest political maneuver in history? And was he justified in the execution of Crispus? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Roman Empire, please hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm show this video to more history lovers. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode on the fall of the city Constantine built. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.